Thank you so much, and I really want to say thank you to each and every one of you for the work that you did on my Secretary of State's race. You know, I guess I have the penchant for going after incumbents and was not able to get over the line with this particular one after 52 years of a Republican in that seat. It'll now be 56, so my apologies, but I'm taking on Jackson, the incumbent, in the state chair's race instead. You know, I grew up, I'm a first-generation kid. Both my mom and dad were Polish immigrants who arrived after World War II. They were actually refugees, didn't speak the language, landed here in the United States, didn't have jobs. You know, they were somebody who really looked to the promise of America. And the thing that got my parents and my family in good shape was a job. You know, my dad and my mom both became union machinists. I always say that it was trade unions that saved our family and made sure that we had a minimum wage. And my dad, you know, he was one of those guys. He was honest, he was trustworthy, he was transparent. And what was really important for him, you know, was to make sure that people held to their word and did their work. And he would say, you know, Tina, if you've got a house that's falling down, don't go to the guy who built it to fix it. And that's why I believe there needs to be a change in Washington State in party leadership. Jackson, I love you, but you've been in leadership here in this party for over a decade, and where do we find ourselves? You know, since 2010, we have not been able to take over the state Senate. In fact, we've lost that Senate. Ever since the Roadkill Caucus came together, ever since we had the defections of Tim Shelton and Rodney Tom and other folks, we have not been able to get the Senate back. Our majority in the House is razor thin. And in this last cycle, we did nothing to defend that majority. In fact, we are holding on with two hands. If you look around the state of Washington and look at what happened in this last election, places that were reliably Democratic, for example, Pierce County, we lost the Pierce County executives race. We lost the Pierce County Council to Republicans. We've lost traditional counties like Grays Harbor County, who went for Donald Trump. And east of the Cascades, we've been skunked. We haven't been skunked for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years. I mean, think about it. And even think about local districts and things here and what we could do in a variety of different races. So here's my belief and my work on doing this. And I'm running for state party chair to make sure that each and every one of you have the resources as volunteers, as people who believe in the tenets of the Democratic Party, not just to be here and be in meetings, but to be able to make a difference. You know, if you take a look at the data that we've got in systems like vote building, the data is not great data. If you've worked with this data in the last election, it's not. And we've not done anything to do the work to make that change. I know how to do that change and make that change. And we've got to use volunteers to be able to do that and do a variety of different things in terms of setting goals for ourselves around that. It's a matter of taking a look at voters and voter turnout, but also down to the PCO level to make sure that PCOs are not just working their precincts once every 2 years or once every 4 years, but that you've got the information to be able to know everyone, each and every person in that precinct, and each and every voter, and to make sure that the data that you put together as a PCO gets into the master system and is not rejected by somebody sitting in the state party office to say, oh, this is not the right data in making that happen. Every PCO needs to be trained in Vote Builder. Every PCO needs to have the work that they do respected. Communication is another big component of this as well. Think about what you need to be able to talk to folks, to be able to do this work, to be able to spread the word of the Democratic Party. You know, I think of the guys who worked in the factory with my dad, and I think of where they are today. You know, my dad and my mom, you know, worked for 30 years as machinists. My dad, when he was dying of prostate cancer, couldn't get the hospice care that he needed because his insurance plan was sold not once, not twice, but 3 times. My mom, whose pension plan as a union machinist was sold not once, not twice, but 3 times. Her monthly pension now is $297 a month. You know, think about the folks who are deserting the Democratic Party. Those are the folks who are reliable Democrats, but it's hitting them in the pocketbook. We've got to be able to have the conversations and do the work and talk to folks, and that takes communication. so that they understand what's happening with their state representatives and who's voting for them and who's not, so that they understand the connection between things like Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security and the folks who are not supportive of that. So many folks, and that communication needs to get down to the PCO level. I believe we can tell those stories and reflect our values in making that happen. I also think we need a dedicated strategy for all the counties and all the legislative districts in Washington State. We've talked about that for a long time, but we certainly haven't done it. The only office we have here in Washington State is in Seattle. That's not right. We need to have offices and organizers throughout the state of Washington. And I can tell you, our friends in Eastern Washington have been waiting years to have that happen, and they're ready to make that happen. And as state party chair, I will make that happen to do that work. Also, fundraising. You know, respectfully, I would say, Jackson, you talked about the Clinton campaign not giving us fundraising. Well, one of the reasons is because you didn't sign the joint fundraising agreement with the Clinton campaign. You knew that if you didn't sign that, you would not get the money, and you did not have a backup plan to make sure that we could get almost $1 million into our state to do that. To me, that is irresponsible, and it's not transparent. You know, the finances of the state party need to be known to everyone here in the state party. The fundraising components need to be really clear, and the state can't just be fundraising for the state. The state has to be fundraising for each and every legislative district and county district that we have as well. It's not about the state and you, it's about we. It's about all of us and making sure every legislative district in the state of Washington has the resources that they need to do the work. We've never done that as a state, to look at those budgets, to look and see what happens. We've got 29 different districts in the state that have raised less than $5,000 over the course of how many cycles? And they've not gotten help from the state party to be able to do that sort of work, to fundraise and to be able to invest in their people and the work that's there. We have left 13 different legislative districts and 7 different Senate districts in this state unchallenged. Republicans without a Democratic challenger. We need to be able to fix that. I'm running with Joe Pagodas as a chair, vice chair combination. And I don't know if you know Joe, but Joe was the congressional district candidate in the 5th district out of Spokane. He is the chair of the Spokane tribe, the CEO of the Spokane tribe. He's a member of the Colville tribe. And Joe represents somebody who came out of foster care and made their way in life to be able to get to where he is. And together, we've got the managerial experience, the fundraising experience, the campaign experience, because we've both been candidates and we've both won and we've both lost, but we know what that kind of work is. But more than that, we know what it takes to make a state party work, and it's investing in our people. And the people that we invest in are not the state party staff, it's not the big donors, it's every last person who's sitting in this room here today. That's who we need to invest in, and that's what you should expect out of a state party chair. I'd urge you to check out our website. It's Tina plus Joe, the word plus.org. It has our platform, it has our background, it has a sense of what's been happening here in Washington State and the opportunity to endorse us. But I really just want to thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And just know you are the epicenter. You in the 31st district, because they're not going to give up in winning that Senate seat either. And wouldn't it be nice to take what I've always thought of as Pam Roach's seat away from Republicans? That would make me so happy. I think it would make all of you happy to be able to do that too. But here in the 45th, we need to win this Senate seat. And every last thing that we want to do with the party and work through the party, we can show how that works here in the 45th and make that happen to win that seat. I hope you'll check it out, and I hope I can get your support in this race. Thank you.